Hi, it's the Constant Angler. Today, as part of my BFS journey, I'm going to swap out the stock bearings on my Tsurinoya Dark Wolf DF50. I'm going to be replacing them with some Tsurinoya bearings here. It's actually the DF50 upgrade kit, hybrid ceramic bearings. I sourced these from Jamie at Needham Specialist Tackle, UK. You can find them online. I've also grabbed a few tools, a bearing spindle, a little hook here, and a pin remover for the bearing on the spool. Now, I have done this before, changed bearings on bait casters, but larger bait casters than this. This is how I ended up with this tool. It's okay, it's not the best. I'll probably invest in a more expensive tool, but it will get the job done today. So yeah, let's start off by seeing what it spins like before we upgrade it. So the brakes are set at 0, little or no side play, and it's very quiet, very smooth. It's very nice. So we'll have a look at the end of all this and compare the two and see what difference. We'll take the bearings out and we'll spin each on the spindle and see what they spin like on the spindle. And hopefully I'll be able to get right into the gubbins and show you what you need to remove and how you need to do it to switch these bearings out. Right, cheers. So we'll look on here at the minute. I've got the ceramic bearing on the spindle, and you can hear that. Hopefully the camera's focusing and you can actually see that spinning. It just stopped, but let's do it again. There you go, you can see it now. Still going, slowing up and stopping. So I've done nothing to these bearings at all, straight out of the packet. Look how smooth that one is. We'll take the other bearings out now and we'll do the same thing and see what they're like. How are we going to get at these bearings? Well, on the Tsurinoya you've got this little catch underneath here on the end plate. You can see it's set to 0, the brakes, and then you just twist, in this case that way, and pull the end cap off. And if you can see in there, that's one of the bearings we've got to get at, right in the middle there. That's the tricky one. So that's the smaller bore one of the two bearings that we have. One in there and one on the spool, which I'll show you in a second. So then we remove the spool, and there, you can see that, is the other bearing that we've got to remove. We've got to take this little pin off here first. Now, you can do it with pliers, but it's much better, especially on these smaller reels, to do it with a pin remover. There's less risk of bending the pin. Pop the spool down. So there's the two bearings we've got to remove, and there's the two we're going to replace them with in the packet. So it's Tsurinoya bearings in a Tsurinoya reel, which is probably good advice, isn't it? So we can put this bit of the reel aside now. We don't need that for the moment. Right, we're going to do the spool one first. So we'll take it off and then we'll spin it on the spindle and see what happens. Now, I'm trying to do this through the camera. If you look at the pin, there's a thin end and a thick end. We're obviously going to have to push it from this side and out that way, because that thick end won't go through here. It'll end up bending if you try. So on this tool, you can unscrew all of this if you want. You've got a little recess here. This is going to catch your pin for you, and you're going to place this whole thing over, and then you're going to turn this in, and that will push onto this end and push it out. Now, I found with this particular one, it doesn't sit 100% properly, so I've got to almost hold it in place at the time. But so put your spindle in the middle and push it down and turn it, put it across this way, as I've just done, so the pin is sat in that groove. And then with this one, I've just got to angle it up a bit, so try and hold it in position so that this screw bit here actually pushes directly onto the pin. And then at that point, I'm going to twist this bar, do it all slowly and gently. And you can see that it's pushed it now and if you do it slowly, you'll feel it just butt up against the spindle there. Don't do it hard and fast, because this is where you need to now withdraw this, because you push the pin into the center there now. You can see, you can't see this end of the pin, and it's starting to poke out of there. So this is how I do it. I take this out now. So I've used the blunter end first. I switch it around and then carefully screw it in this way. And now I'm trying to get that spindle bit in the hole in the spindle there. I've got it now. So I'm still holding it in place, and the pin's here, and I just gently, just to make sure you got it right, there should be little or no resistance if you've got it right, and I'm pushing that pin out, and I've just felt it pop out, and you can see it in there. So withdraw your tool right out of the spindle, remove that, and you can see, if I tap it, it's obviously got a bit of grease on it. Hopefully the camera has picked that up, and there's my pin. So put that somewhere safe with your tool. I'll put that off to the side, be out of shot for the minute. So now I've got that pin out, I need to remove the bearing. So that wasn't too difficult, was it? You just got to take some time and have a bit of patience with it, and the same when you pop back in. So before we progress, I'm going to put that bearing on the spindle tool to show you what that spins like. It's hardly spinning at all, is it? Do you see the difference? I haven't done anything to these bearings at all. Turn it up the other way. I would have done it and dropped it. I've got no nails. I decided to chop my nails before I did this. But you can see, look, either way round, I don't make any difference. It's almost stopping instantly. It feels smooth, but that's probably loaded with grease, to be fair. But these bearings are not going to be as good as those ceramic bearings. So there we go, bearing aside, tool down. Let's get the first part of the job done. So we want the larger bore bearing. So as you can see, we're ready now to replace the bearing. We've taken our old bearing off. There's the old bearing. And I noticed when I took it off that this fell onto the mat. Now this is a little washer. I'm assuming it's a washer because it hasn't come off the bearing. The old bearing looks exactly the same either side. So I'm assuming that this is a little washer that sits on the spindle first. See, it sits there quite nicely there, and this is stopping the bearing from coming up against the main body of the spindle there and maybe damaging. It's a little washer, isn't it? So then you get your bearing, your replacement bearing. So we've got a ceramic bearing there, and pop it on. So now I've got to put the pin back in. So here's the tricky bit. Let's get this on camera nice and right. So if you look at the holes on the spindle where the pin's at, they're the same either side. So no worries about which way in we go. But at first you're going to have to push it in with your fingers so far. Then what we're going to do is get the blunt end of this tool again. There we go. Put it just in, sit it over the spindle again, hold it in place, and push slowly. Once you've got it locked in place, turn it very, very slowly and gently until it starts to go in. All of this, I can't emphasize enough, is bring it to the center of the screen a bit more, how gentle you need to be with all of this. Because if you made a mistake and you've gone very gently, you shouldn't break the pin. And you need to get that pin in so that it's even in length either side. So if we withdraw it, you can have a look and you can go back. There we go. So we probably have gone a little bit too far. So if you do that, just turn it around again. Withdraw your your screw pin there and just get it sat right again, and then just turn it and readjust it so it goes tight. So put it across there again now. There, you can feel it now. Just a little there. And now, is that even? Is that not even? Very difficult to tell when one side's thinner and one side's thicker. So I think I need to put it, I've gone too far. So let's just sit it back over, hold it in place, get it butted up, and just there. Now it's going tight again now, so just a little turn. Take it out, have a look. I think that's about right now. I'm quite happy with that. We'll know fully when we pop it back in the reel, and we'll do that. We'll do a check before we progress and remove the other bearing. So pop it back in the reel, sitting there nicely at the moment. Put your end cap back on, which I'm doing the wrong way. I need to do it that way. Lock it up. Turn and make sure everything's okay. You can already hear how noisy these ceramic bearings are, but how freely that's running already is much better. So we're all good. It's wind. Make sure the drag's tightened up. A minute. Yeah, all seems good. Nothing wrong there. So we've changed that bearing. Let's get to the really tricky bit. So I guess for these things, the more practice, the better you become, the more quicker and efficient you become. So we're wanting this bit now. So we're happy with the spool bearing. We've changed that out now. All's good with that. Let's leave that in there. Whilst we're doing this, let's mention what I'm doing this on. This is just a mat. It's not a magnetic mat. A magnetic mat would be a good idea, wouldn't it? You're not going to lose your bits so much, but you want something, a nice area to work on where you can clearly see bits that might fall out, such as that shim. So now let's get to the tricky bit. Now, I haven't tried this before, in this particular braking system, you can see this gets in the way. Now you can remove it, but I'm not going to. If you can see, if I bring it a bit closer, hopefully it's in focus there, there is a little clip that sort of sits around here. It's a Circlip, except for it's hexagonal, not circular. We need to, that just sits under a little recess there, so we need to, with this tool or a pair of pliers or something, I personally wouldn't use pliers, I'm going to try it with this, we need to remove that Circlip. So being very careful, I'm trying to do this, it's a case of fiddling around until we get to lift it, catch it, try in one of the corners, maybe get in behind it there, this could be the way to go, and then get underneath it there. See how I did that? I went in behind it and then pinged it out and it's gone. Luckily I can see it. So I was trying to show you it, filming it, and what I really was wanting to do, now I can't pick it up, it was put my hand over the top to stop it doing that, but I wanted to, there you go, that's what you were looking at. So learn from my mistakes. So now we're going to get that bearing out. As I say, I haven't done this before, so you're learning as I learn. So with that little tool, that was so easy. I just hooked it underneath and removed it. And that's not that difficult, is it? Other than my little mistake, let's say, flinking that out all over the place, which I'm sure lots of you will do and have done. That went relatively smoothly. I didn't lose it, did I? But yeah, you could have done. It could have gone anywhere and took me hours to find. But if you put your hand over it while you do it and just sort of peek in there, and when you get the crux of it, just sort of close that and lift it out like that. It can't go anywhere but on here. So there's a good little tip, isn't it? That's what my channel's about, giving you tips as we go along. As I say, I'm not professing to be an expert here. This is a learning curve for me, BFS, and all of this. So, you know, you want to do it yourself. You want to buy the tools. You can get them all relatively cheaply. So let's get the next bearing. So we're just going to reverse what we've just done. So the bearing is the same either side, these little orange ceramic bearings. So I'm going to try and drop it in there. Well, obviously it wasn't going to do that, was it? So I'm just going to try and push it in. There you go. Great little tool. This, like this tool. It's sat in there. Tricky bit is getting that clip back in, isn't it? Right, hopefully this rusty old pair of pliers is going to save the day, or pair of tweezers even. So what I'm going to do is get in the clip, place it in at an angle. Hopefully you can see that. Grab one side, force it in there. I've got one side there and I've forced it in there. So I've had it holding, I've pushed it in under that lip. Then what I'm going to have to do is grab the other side and just push it in. And unfortunately, this is the case. You just have to fiddle around till it sits in there. Doesn't seem to want to go, and then all of a sudden it goes. But that's what I found best. And keeping your hand over here while you're working on it. I know you can't see that at the moment. I don't know whether you saw what I did there, but that's the best I can film it without it flinking out. I've had it flink out at me before and nearly lost it. And the little hook here, as great as that is for removing your bearings, and these tweezers are better for that circlip. So get yourself some tweezers. You can nick them off the missus. I'll pop them back in a minute. She won't even know they went missing. And you've just got to fiddle and get it in there. If you grab it, hold and one side and push the opposite side in underneath the lip. So grab it, hold and push the opposite side in underneath the lip. It'll stick in one side, and then spin it around. Grab the other side. I'm trying to show you this. Grab the other side, and whilst cupping your hand over the top, push in, and then drop it under that lip. And it just fell in there for me then. You're just gonna have to fiddle around. But if you do it with your hand over like that, you can't lose the clip. So it's just a case of practice makes perfect then, doesn't it? But it is doable. I've done it, so you'll be able to yourself. Just use a pair of tweezers. It's much easier. Right, so how much did we gain? How freer is this spool? Well, yeah, it's better. It's spinning more, I'd say. It's freer. Not as much as, if I'm honest, as I would have hoped for, but it's definitely more. Definitely help when I'm pitching and flipping. If it was like one of these things that just went on and on and on and on and on, I'd be a bit worried, because I don't think the brakes could handle that freer spool. But it's definitely, yeah, it's definitely an improvement. So it was a 15-minute job, something like that, wasn't it? I don't know. If I wasn't talking to the camera, it wouldn't have been as long. So yeah, there's a marked improvement. You know, that's a good improvement. It's noisier, definitely noisier. But then that's to be expected. I haven't put any oil or anything in there. Give us your feedback. Do you put oil in there? Is it a massive improvement? No, if I'm honest. You know, I like being honest with you. I'd say no. Maybe I've done something wrong. These stock bearings were exactly as they came. They were stuffed full of grease. So if I cleaned them out, would I have got the same benefits? Who knows? These are questions I like to ask. As you know, for me, BFS is a learning process. So that whole procedure there was a new thing for me. And I think it's real. It shows you yourself the reality of doing these things yourself. You can achieve these things. You can do them yourself. It is possible. The problems you have. This is what I want to show you. Not, you know, go, look at that, look at this, and then miss out some of the mistakes I made, some that you might make, some you can then avoid. I hope that helps. Hope it's of some use to you. Please like and subscribe. There'll be more of this. There'll be more BFS this year. At the moment, the world's upside down, isn't it? And I can't get to do it. But the minute I can, I'll be back on it, trying to catch some chub and some perch if I haven't missed a season again like last year. And yeah, there's a definite improvement there. I'm happy with that. Cheers, Constant Angler.